and every day new joy I find He gives to me will be so mine until the day when Christ I see. I'll live for Jesus who died for me. The singing, you may be seated.
Father, bless our lesson, and that it would be fruitful in our life. Father, that some of these things that are important would be remembered now. In Christ's name I pray, amen. A lot of the stuff isn't important. I hope you all had a lesson on Nehemiah. It's the last of the historical books of the Old Testament. Basically, the Bible ends here. It would end here. Historically, as far as the dates, it's over. Then you have your, how many silent years do you have?
400.
It's the 400 silent years. Right. So it's the last of the historical books of the Old Testament. And basically, the running of the count of the number of the books and how it runs, it doesn't run concurrently. It runs as they arranged it. If there's 39 books, it runs 5 books, 12 books. 5 and 12 is 17. So it runs 5 books, 12 books, then 5 poetry, then 5 books, 12 books. 5 major prophets, 12 minor prophets, and it runs in here. And then the 12 minor prophets run 3 and 9. 3 books and 9 books. And so this would be 3 books. Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, I would say that runs the 3 books, then you got 9 books. So it runs 5, 3, 9, 5 right in the middle, then 5 books, and then 3 and 9 again. That's how the count runs. And if you total those up, and those are symmetrical then. Those are symmetrical. And if you count those up, it's 39 books. We do have a lesson on that, and we do a whole thing on Sunday school on the count of the book, the arrangement of the Old Testament, how that's done. And I do not like reading anybody ever read a concurrent by dates listing? When we pass out your daily Bible reading, we just go through from beginning to end, Genesis to Revelation in order. And Candace wanted to do, and she presented, wherever she found it, a Bible reading that was by dates. Chronological order. You have one. And we do pass that out. We usually pass that out the first of the year, pass out both, or it's available in the back. You can have the daily reading, and then it's on heavy cardstock. So you can keep it in your Bible. And then you have one that's concurrent, chronological order of dates. There's a whole lot of skipping going on around doing that. And for me, it doesn't run, when you read it, it makes it really choppy, the stories, because it kind of jumps around. Anyway, this is the last of this historical books of the Old Testament. Just so you know, the Bible ends here. And I would assume then the Jewish Bible ends here. This is where it ends. If you have a Jewish Bible, that's where it ends for them. Nehemiah, and the other books, though, are in there, but they haven't been in chronological order. All right, Nehemiah is the author. Nehemiah 1:1, we go there. The words of Nehemiah. So we want to prove it. There are those that probably historians or Bible theologians that then go into great detail on proving that Nehemiah is the author. I don't have. We just accept that it says that Nehemiah is the author. I don't see the fruit. It's not going to make the roast beef and potatoes taste any better. It's just a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact, the words of Nehemiah. So it's a historical book. Nehemiah is the author. Name off some books in the Bible that there's an author, but it doesn't state the author. The book of Acts, I think you're right.
Is it Hebrews?
No.
Hebrews.
Who wrote Acts?
Luke.
Acts.
Peter, Paul.
No.
Luke.
Luke did. And you can prove that. So there's Luke. A lot of those are, they just assume through research who wrote these books. Some of them, they don't come out and say. All right, like Revelation says, I, John, saw, and it was given to the servant. So I, John, so he identifies himself. Other ones, it is not given. Book of Acts is not given. Of the Gospels, there could be some that are not stated as the author, Mark 51. But there are books that it is not stated. And Luke and Acts is one of them. And how do you know it's Luke? What's the opener in the book of Acts or in the book of Luke, for that matter? How does Luke write it? The first 5 verses.
His personal testimony.
He gives. It's kind of like, and he says he places it in what order?
Chronological.
It's in chronological. I don't know if he uses the word chronological, but he puts it in the order as it happened.
Yeah.
All right, who is the only Gentile writer in the New Testament?
Luke.
Luke. And how much of the New Testament does he write? So it's Luke and Acts. How much of the Bible is that as far as the New Testament? Anybody know? Pardon?
A lot.
A lot. But what is the percentage? If you were to say it's a lot of the New Testament, well, how much of the New Testament is a lot for one man to write?
75%.
No, it's the opposite. Flip that. It's 25% of the New Testament is written by Luke, and he is a Gentile. And he writes quite a bit. That's a lot. And he writes it in order. So you take it in order. What is given in John that seems to be way out of order? What occurs in chapter 2 right away? Anybody know what Jesus does in chapter 2?
Wine.
Pardon?
The wine.
Yes. But he does the cleansing of the temple. Right away, he cleanses the temple right away. And the way there's 2 ways to view that. Either doctrinally speaking, it's out of order for a doctrinal reason. And he cleanses the temple only one time, historically in the Bible, or he historically cleanses it twice, as he revisits it. And the assumption is he revisits it because of feast days, and Jesus is keeping those. And he cleanses it twice. So there's different ways to view that. Anyway, going off on those things is because you're looking for the author, what kind of a book it is. It's historical. The Bible is a historical, it's a history book. And so those that check out history, and you go to the Middle East, and you go to Bible land, Israel, you go there, what kind of scientist usually goes there?
Archaeologist.
An archaeologist, and they go poking around. And then those that are not biblical, you would say not Gentiles, you would say non-believer. They're poking around. They want to get information. So don't cut them short. They're looking for information, so they get historical information that isn't biblical or biblically accurate. And they'll say, well, this is the information. So the archaeologist goes around and digs around, then they find new evidence. And what does always the new evidence that they find prove? The new evidence that they find
Bible's true.
that the Bible is true, and what non-believers say was the truth is not the truth. So any new information they always find, it always proves the Bible and disproves what they found elsewhere and so on. It proves the Bible. So those guys are always out there looking for stuff, and they're usually funded by some fund that comes through their university, like Harvard, or give me one of these places that send them. Someplace in England, they'll send them down there to poke around, and they get some kind of a grant. I mean, you got to get free money to go down there and do that stuff, right? The only one thing you want to do digging around your own backyard is bury the garbage. You burn it, or you bury the tin cans. That's what I did as a kid. You didn't have the garbage. You don't have these. If you look at these massive garbage trucks, they're huge. We saw one, look, it's a miniature of a massive garbage truck. That's the way they were probably in the early 70s. And they make these enormous trucks. These communities don't want them driving through there, just tear streets apart. Right, so I think they restrict it. Only one garbage unit goes in there, and they contract it to keep the garbage routes down, because they do a lot of destruction. Anyway, but they look for people who buried their garbage or burned it, right? They look through those ashes. So Nehemiah is the author, chapter 1, verse 1. It's written during the reign of Artaxerxes. Now that's the way I pronounce it, and the elites on the Almost Christian radio station, they pronounce it other ways, you know. But it's given, the facts are given. The 20th year of his reign, Nehemiah 2:1, came to pass in the month of Nisan in the 20th year of Artaxerxes. It came. So historically, you can trace that. You could probably find Gentile writing or other writings separate from that would prove it. You know, where these guys that like to do that, there are people who like to do that. You know, God didn't make everybody, not every tree in the forest is the same, not all flowers are the same, and not all people are the same. There are people that love to do this. Go and investigate this. And it goes through the 32nd year of his reign in Nehemiah 13, verse 6. So the dates are given. 13, verse 6. But in all the time was not I at Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, came I unto the king, and after certain days obtained I leave of the king. So he then goes back. He went back to Jerusalem, then he comes back again. Because he said, let me go build a wall, and I will return. He does return, and he goes, and then he asks leave again, and the king lets him go back. So after the 12 years, he probably got himself a new cupbearer. Okay, so Artaxerxes, he reigns historically from 465 to 423 BC. He reigns there. It's probably written then in 433. If you take the 465 minus the 32 years of his in the reign, in his 32nd year of his reign, you can come up with a 433 BC. It's probably when it was written. You know, people could read and write back. Now today it's questionable if they can read and write. I did. The mail that comes here comes over there, comes to there, it comes here, it comes back. I don't know why these guys can't do that unless there's a supervisor along and he looks at that and he's got to put it in the box where the address, you know, because some of the addresses and the name of the company or the name of the church may have the wrong address, and then if the supervisor catches them putting it in there. You know, the best of the brightest are running this, folks. It would be so easy just to put it in the right mailbox, right? But they don't do that. So that place gives me my mail, and then that place has to give them their mail, and it's all mixed up. But they could read and write back then. So when it's probably written, it covers a period of about 12 years as we compare those verses. Nehemiah 1:1, Nehemiah 13, verse 6, and Nehemiah, let's look at 5:14, see what's written there. Moreover, from the time that I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, from the 20th year, even unto the 30th year of Artaxerxes the king, that is 12 years, I and my brethren have not eaten the bread of the governor. Now, the idea of have not eaten the bread of the governor. So if you get involved in politics, they're eating the bread of the governor. So he's involved in politics. He becomes the ruler. And he said he wasn't dipping in there. He wasn't dipping in there. So he didn't eat that bread. He supplied his own labors. Brother McCombie was telling me, we met with him on Friday, and he said when he was a pastor out in, is it Jersey, New Jersey, Massachusetts? Out Massachusetts, but on the coast. I think it's on the coast. And anyway, he said the bus broke down. Their bus broke down between a drunk house and they were selling. Well, he told me a couple stories. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. Anyway, the drunk came in. But we've had drunks come in here, smashed, drunker than the 3 sheets of the wind. You know, they'd come in here. We had one guy. He called himself. He would call himself Jonah. And I think he called himself Jonah. He would come in soaking wet from about the waist down. Anybody know why he would call himself Jonah and he'd be soaking wet from the waist down? He was an older guy. He was at least as old as I am.
Did he smell?
Huh?
Did he smell?
Oh, I don't know. My sniffer wasn't working too good. But we didn't have this building. We were upstairs. He'd walk in, he'd be dripping wet. Well, where was he? Anybody know where he was? He'd be soaked. Nobody knows. They called it
Sewer.
Well, he'd be out here in the creek, walking through the creek. I don't know what he's doing. And he'd come in drunk, he'd come in sober. He probably came here 3 or 4 times. But brother said that he would have, this one drunk would come in, but he said one day he walked in sober. And he said, you know, and he's looking for, they're always looking for a handout. He wants money. Well, this guy would want money. And he said, you know, it's in the Bible. It says, if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. He said, it is in the Bible, really? So I showed him the verse. No work, no eat. He said, listen, I'll pay you. I'll give you money, but you got to work for it. He said, we're going to go out and witness. And he said at the time he would pay that guy a dime for every track he passed out. You're going to stand at this corner, and I'll stand at that corner. Now, if you're going to get paid 10 cents a track, let's say you're downtown, click back, we pass it on. You know, he was like, whoa, he didn't know what to do. Well, he was in front of like a state liquor store. And the other guy, the pastor, he was in front of a bar. And they came out, they were all upset. But anyway, they were out there for a while, and he knew the count that he had on tracks. He only passed out 10 tracks, so he gave him $1. I mean, I would have passed out. I would have got rid of that and got more. Like, just hand them out like hotcakes, 10 cents a piece. He said, well, inflation today is probably $4 a track. Anyway, but anyway, he gave him $1. Now, why did I say that? I don't even know why I said that. 12 years, it doesn't matter. There was a period of about 12 years. Anybody know why I said that? I don't get the connection either. If you don't get the connection, I forgot what the connection is. I guess I'm getting older. Anyway, it's getting hotter in here, isn't it? Anybody too warm?
Turn that one down.
Yeah, Joe, you want to turn that one down? Turn it off. Just turn it. Just push the bottom lever all the way to the left. You don't just shut off. And if we have to, between services, let's open the doors up and cool it off. All right. So it covers the period of about 12 years. The main characters are Nehemiah, Artaxerxes, the king that lets him come, and Ezra. Ezra is also a...
Don't eat the king's food.
Oh, yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, they're dipping into the king's food.
Proverbs says, put a knife to your neck. Don't.
And Proverbs says, put a
Don't
knife
eat it.
to your throat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't
Well,
eat
this
it.
politics business, man, you get involved in that, somehow you end, why is it they all turn out rich? Well, Nehemiah wasn't dipping in that. He supplied his own food.
They could give you a Mickey that food.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
He supplied his own food. He wasn't dipping in there. All right, he deals then with the topic here is the rebuilding of the wall, Nehemiah 1:3. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province, in chapter 1, verse 3, are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Now, there you had a wall keeping them out. That sure wouldn't happen today. You'd send up a drone. Isn't that too bad? They sent up that drone right after they killed those 13 Marines. And I think one was a naval nurse. And they send the drone up, and we got to cover our sorry rear ends. They go and blow up a school bus, or they blow up something filled with children. And they kill a bunch of kids, and then they said, yeah, we got them. And then, 2 or 3 weeks later, find out that they killed a bunch of kids. And they hit the wrong target. What kind of a government is this? It's run by the best and the brightest.
They had a guy with a bomb vest, dead to rights, and he asked if we, with a drone, and they called and said, can we shoot him? And they said, don't.
Well, you can't touch the real target.
Yeah.
Too bad. And nothing's going to happen. These people aren't going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. Their just desserts are coming. Their just desserts are coming. Rest assured, it will come one day. So it deals with the rebuilding of the wall. It's a personal burden. He fasts. He prays for 4 months after he heard the bad news. And so news had traveled from Jerusalem to Babylon, and where Nehemiah gets the information, verses 1 through 4. If we look at verse 4, and it came to pass when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. So word had come that in verse 2, Hanani, one of my brethren, came told him what was going on. And then the king noticed that his countenance had changed in chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him. He took up the wine, gave it unto the king. Now I had not been aforetime sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was sore afraid. Why would he be afraid? He said he was sore afraid. He was very much afraid.
Probably the king was going to be mad.
Yeah, so it may not state it in the story, but you got to come up with a reason why he would be afraid. Is that he's not in that position to be unhappy, and if he did appear unhappy, the king could say, to the other guy that chop his head off, will replace him. And so he could have been afraid that he was going to lose his life over that. I wanted hey, things are pretty tough. You get with the program. What was Nebuchadnezzar's favorite line? Wasn't it Nebuchadnezzar's his favorite threat? His favorite threat was, I'm going to knock your house down and turn it into what? Turn it into a dung. You got with the program right away. You're going to knock your house down, turn it into a dung, And if you didn't get with the program that God is God, the real God, because he was converted, he believed all that and believed what we believe, and he said, if you don't get with the program, you're dead. All right, deals with the rebuilding of the wall. He fasts and prays for the 4 months. He gets word from Jerusalem, and the king noticed the personal survey. Chapter 2, verses 11. He's given permission to go. He asks to go. Can I go? To build the wall. He wants to go in verse 7 of chapter 2. Moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Judah. So he has a lot of power. The king has a lot of power. He has a letter, it's probably sealed with the king's seal. The king grants him permission to go. He goes beyond the river. He sends captains of the army and horsemen with him. So he's got this entourage with him. And he personally surveys it. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. And I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. He didn't let the cat out of the bag to those that he met with. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, into the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates there were consumed with fire. Then I went on to the gate of the fountain and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. So I went up in the night by the brook, viewed the wall, turned back, and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. So he takes a personal, secret survey of it. And he was unable to pass. Now I have in my side notes, we can spiritualize this, that Christ can pass because he keeps the law. The law, the beast represents the as, and the Christian cannot pass. Christian can't pass through there, only Christ could. And so on. You can spiritualize these verses. It is a story, but behind the story, it has to, like Samson, that's a story, but in the end, Samson is the type of Christ. And so on. All right, he makes this personal survey, and it's a secret. He then encourages the people. Folks, if you want to get someplace, you have to do encouragement. Encouragement. Encourage the people. Then said I unto them, verses 17 and 18, see ye the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come, let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. So if you want to get stuff done, you got to do it in the right way. The other day, now this is yesterday, I went to the land and I walked this land, and then after that I went to the other land and walked that land. And we drove down, the reason I bring this story up, we drove down, we went and viewed this land, and we drove down to where Missy first took me, and then the second time I went with Thomas to the bottom at the end of this residential area, and Nathan was pointing out, we did this house, 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 and we put the lawn in for this guy, and it was right at the end of the cul-de-sac, right where we were going to park the car. We didn't walk in that way. I walked in that way twice. It's really rugged in there. And you don't want to put a driveway in there to get in there. It's pretty rugged in there. And but he said, this is where that guy came in the shop, and he was all upset about his grass. So it's kind of like the same way. you want to say, you have to present yourself in a certain way if you're going to get something done. If you're going to be hard-nosed, just see where that gets you. Then people are going to be hard-nosed back, and you just see where that gets you. So the guy came in, and he was all upset. Now, I had no idea this. It was an older man. I don't think it was my age or a little older or a little younger. I called him an older guy. They put the grass in, and the grass didn't come up how he wanted the grass. And I think what Sonny says, when they put the grass in, they put in the grass that is supposed to go in, that's going to grow, but it takes time to grow. Because there's different grasses. And so they mix it in with another grass that grows right away. The one grass might come up in 2 or 3 weeks. Because everybody wants their hamburger in the drive-thru. When do they want it? Do they want it 3 weeks from now, or do they want it now?
Yesterday.
They want the hamburger now. They want the hamburger yesterday. So he says they mix this other grass in. It's not weeds, it's grass. It's that comes up for show. I don't know, Sonny has a phrase for it. One's for show, and the other's for go. What, you have a phrase for that. But you do have something. You plant this grass. The grass you want coming up is coming up in 2 weeks. And these people, they don't want to wait.
The rye germinate in 2 to 3 days if the temperature's right, and then the bluegrass takes 21 days.
All right, so it's 3 weeks, 21 days. The bluegrass is what you want, and the rye, is it, you call it rye? Mm-hmm. The rye comes up in 2 to 3 days if everything's right. So they want to see results now. Well, the guy didn't see results now. Maybe you didn't mix it that way. This was early on. They were really just kind of getting started. This guy comes in hot under the collar. He was going at it. I think Buster got involved. It was toe to toe. I went out there, I broke it up, and I introduced myself. I mean, I'm not involved in this thing, but they're in the building with me. I introduced myself. I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "My grass isn't coming." I mean, it was the end of the world for the guy. His dumb grass didn't come up. It was the end of the world as he knew it. So I said, "Oh, come on into the office." So I invited him in. We sat down. I don't think Buster had gotten involved yet. And I asked him, who are you? Where do you live? What is the problem? I asked him, how's your day going? How are you? It's a beautiful sunny day. Right? You want to be encouraging, right? But if you're going to be hard-nosed and say, "Get out of here, I'll call the police." Now, where's that going to go? Where's that going to go?
6 o'clock news.
The 6 o'clock news. If he leaves happy, statistically, how many people does he tell if he leaves happy?
2.
You can't count that high.
You can't count. He'll tell one person. I'll give you 2. He'll tell 2 people. If he leaves unhappy, how many people does he tell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, the statistic is happy, he tells 1 person. Unhappy, he tells 10 people. If he's unhappy, he will never have anything nice to say about you from now to doomsday.
Oh, well.
Well, what happened with the lawn?
Well, here's what happened. Now, the end result of the lawn, I can't tell you exactly what happened. But I decided, well, what's the problem? So after I asked him that question, what should I do? The word that my dad would say to me that you probably shouldn't say in church. Huh? Shut up. I didn't open my mouth. It's not my turn to talk. I said, what's the problem? It's his turn. It is his turn to talk. So I listened to him from start to finish. And when he was done, I didn't say, "Are you done now?" I didn't present it that way. I said, "Really? That's what happened?" I said, "Well, let me go get Buster." So I got Buster in there, and now, they know each other. He wants the Sears, this guy wants the Sears grass seed planted in Parma to come up right now. Well, it didn't work that way. You know, the serpent turf or the turf builder, whatever it is, whatever these ethnics put down, they put it down, and they want this result. Well, it didn't happen. The magic didn't happen. So he came in, and I said, no, this is what the problem is. I said, just everybody relax. Now, how are we going to resolve this? All right? The problem was, the main problem is the owner of the property didn't do his end of the deal. What was his end of the deal?
Water.
He has to water it. If he doesn't water the grass, it ain't going to grow. Now listen, in the long haul, when you see the beginning of a company to when the company ends, this long, what does it mean? It doesn't mean much of anything. It doesn't mean anything. But you got to make this guy happy. So now, what was the end result? He left happy. I made sure that he left happy. Everybody was happy, everybody shaking hands, they weren't hugging each other, but everybody left happy. They probably threw down more grass seed and said, now remember, you've got to water. You say, I'll make sure I water. Whatever the end result was, he left happy. Now I'm going to tell you, if you get along like that, you'll get along.
I'm going to blame God on this one. He didn't send the rain when it's supposed to get there.
God didn't send the rain. But you can do that with everything. It's Tammy and I. Tammy said, no, business is this way. And I said, no, Tammy. I said, I think this is what's wrong. She was proactive. She made an appointment with a retired banker. They were running a consulting. It was a free service for consulting. And there's something wrong with this business. We didn't know, and we still don't know, anything about the retail business. And folks, we got into selling Jesus. And when I said, man, we're just selling Jesus here. And we ended the books because we don't want to market this. So we went down there. I said, there's 3 things wrong with this company. She said, no. Can't be. Well, we went down there. We presented the books. All he did was look at Tammy's books. The books that Tammy and Missy made. We're talking about a professional banker. And he said, I didn't say anything. He said, oh, well, there's 3 things wrong with the company. And he named off those 3 things. So I looked at Tammy looked at me, and well, by the time we got back to the car, she had eaten crow. And so she admitted those are the 3 things wrong. Now, I said all that. I was altogether right, she was altogether wrong. But anyway, we understood what was going on. Not that I actually understood, because it's just from what I experienced of what they were experiencing. But you do the same thing. It's either this way or the highway. No, if you're on this side of the fence, and another person's on this side of the fence, usually where's the truth?
In the middle.
The truth is in the middle. And if you can't see that and practice that, you're a blockhead. Unless you're dealing with pure Democrats, yeah, that's it. But if you can't see that, what are they? Blockheads. It's a blockhead. If it's all the way this way or all the way that way, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And if you can't negotiate and be an encouragement, and Nehemiah, see, we can learn some practical things from this. He was an encouragement in verses 17 and 18. He didn't get in there and say, you bunch of lazy bums. He didn't do that. You bunch of lazy bums, you're all fired. You're out of here. He didn't do any of that. He encouraged the people, and they said, you know what, let's get to it. So there's a way to present yourself that is going to get the job done. So, and I brought that up because he said this is, and that was the only real big problem that I had an experience with early on. So I invited the guy in, introduced myself, told him who I was, and I let him air it out. What do you think? He vented. I let him vent, he got it all out of the system, and now how are we going to resolve it? And we came to some place in the middle. What was he not going to do? What is the consumer not going to do when you're in that first position? It's all about the golden idol. He's not going to pay his bill. Well, the goal is you want him to pay his bill. So let's say he paid. Let's assume he paid the full amount. Well, he wants some restitution for what he think he got taken. So there's a little give and take. They probably threw some more grass seed down there, took a little bit of the loss. We didn't make as much money, threw the grass seed down there. And now I'm willing to do my half. I'll water the grass seed. And they had it explained, this stuff comes up in 21 days, not 3 days. Because they want to see instant results. So you come to this agreement so that when he left, he said, oh yeah, Tucker, yeah, they did me right. They did me right. Right? But if you go the other way, and now it's executive orders, it's Joe Biden, it's his way or that way. But we, as the citizens, we're stuck with it. And if you get really hardcore about it, if you really don't get with the program, and it's Stalin, you end up in Siberia. We'll put you in the gulag. And they're not going to hesitate to do that. And on the way, if you get shot and killed, they don't care. They'll just throw you off the truck and the wolves will eat you. Father, bless now the preacher. So we can learn from this of how to present it, how he presented himself to the king, how he presented himself to those in Jerusalem. You want to get the job done. And always remember, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Between this guy, he was angry. I calmed him down. They came to a compromise. Everybody was happy, and there was no yelling. Before that, what roused me up to go out there was yelling. They were yelling at each other. Well, we had to diffuse that. That should never, ever happen. In a marriage, that happens. They get yelling. They're yelling at each other. It's ridiculous. It's just utter nonsense. All right, preaching at 15.